on the real. All these dirty Moors know the deal. When we start the revolution, all they probably do is squeal on the real. All these dirty Moors know the deal. When we start the revolution, all they probably do is squeal on the real. All these dirty Moors know the deal. When the truth gets revealed, all they probably do is squeal on the real. All these dirty Moors know the deal on the real. On the real. When I uplift the fallen ones from the ashes, the phoenix will rise and live on after it clashes. Feathers and head wraps, costume ball sashes. Atlantis and Pangea was us ruling the atlas. The mundane, some god, a numb brain. True God is reincarnate, some self-proclaimed. Taking the lessons from Quran questions. Bible as my rolling pad, holy book, circle 7. Forerunner Marcus Garvey coming in the whirlwind. Moorish Bobo Muftis in the black turban. Pioneer exposed as the triple crown glows. Every Negus has the Negus as his throne. The temple as the body. Truth as my shoddy. With no bulge, I'm still armed without the robbery. Master arts martial, and they marshal the law. Peace office abuse authority, fracture your jaw. Clapping at yaw at bachelor parties. Not knowing whether it's controlled by HAARP. Stopping the tapping of UH frequency. Sent to the higher self from Sirius B, or maybe Sirius A. The reverse is serious internet radio play. Like square shreddies are now diamond and new. Misleading, they try to build 50 for a shoe. It takes $5 to make. They load trucks with bins. Same goes for cars, construction Tims. So clean, no scuffs. Revolution chumps, reclining in the armchair, speechless like monks. On the real, all these dirty Moors know the deal. On the real, all these dirty Moors know the deal. On the real, all these dirty Moors know the deal. When we start the revolution, all they probably squeal. Change is coming. I'm watching hybrids running for shade, cause Earth's hot, not like a preheat oven. Raid, the source for UV protection. If AIDS can go through the condoms, who you protecting? Neglecting the truth and lie accepting. Not in for be a person, reparations accepting. Planes going down, but you're not ejecting. Too busy flossing with the spinning rims and white feet is flexing. Fronts are fake elements, that's not real gold. Running from police with guns is not too bold, cause you got a gun but won't shoot back, son, or shoot first and earn your way off earth. Suicide is a sin and sin is ignorance. Not thinking criddle makes you ignorant. Missing the message. Ego filling your brain with nonsensical thoughts just to drive you insane. On the real, all these dirty Moors know the deal. On the real, all these dirty Moors know the deal. On the real, all these dirty Moors know the deal. When we start the revolution, all they probably do is squeal. Our leaders labeled black, they were assigned to us. As ancients, we flew. We didn't have to ride the bus or drink at their fountain. We didn't even need our own. The gun is a penis and every man is holding a chrome. Thinking it's tough, but when you shoot, you bust like Vixens holding you in with the camera with clutch, smoking a Dutch, but thought much against the master. Sellouts will pay karmic debt in the life after. Don't believe me, seek the truth. I hear Hail Hitler when I play back these hip-hop loops that rap hip-hop. Nas said it's dead. Same gun he raps about, shot J in the head. Cripple a team. These ball players, they cripple a dream. Counting the asses that they slap but won't get a bad rap. And rap sheets are written by them. It's police, not following Moors, but niggas booming in their Jeeps. Europeans on the bus, they acting like niggas. Straight off the plantation, looking like J Hill figure. From the foreigner, you'll never get compensated. This armor you man saying he's strapped, you been miseducated. On the real, all these dirty Moors know the deal. When we start the revolution, all they probably do is squeal. On the real, all these dirty Moors know the deal. When we start the revolution, all they probably do is squeal. On the real, all these dirty Moors know the deal. When the truth gets revealed, all they probably do is squeal. On the real, all these dirty Moors know the deal. On the real, on the real. Had to school them, told them, don't let it fool them. Had to school them, told them, don't let it fool them. Had to school them, told them, don't let it fool them. Had to school them, told them, don't let it fool them. Iron sheets spinning and hoping you stop the killing. Most of those holding mics are producing the villains, losing the children. Cells roam, they calling them kids. Won't tell them it's a bond, why they call it a bid. You move big weight, I know you do it with pigs. So corrupt, never see jail cause the one with wigs wears affairs with a pack down tassel as his. You call it racist when police smack you with sticks. Shadows of the crown follow statutes and frauds, begging a privilege. Birthrights are yours, praise the Lord. Raise no sword but war tactics. Iron she gon' point like a cactus. Flip it, you might think it's gymnastics. I'm standing on my square like when they land on a mattress. Blackness lost, shows my faith in the Roman cross. Moors into stagnancy and chill like moss. Perform for the devil while I do job works. Protected by Anubis on my shirt. Dome blown on promising athletes on back streets. Unsolved crimes, witnesses they turn moms. Shoot my family, better not have an oath. And think you could hide behind a badge or two clothes. Could have you in two scopes when you sniff coke. Tip staff a sniper that works for the popes. Cause when the beast come rapper arrested is the cool one. Cause when the beef come murdered rapper is the cool one. Cause when the beast come rapper arrested is the cool one. Cause when the beef come murdered rapper is the cool one. Live in a terrorist safe house. NAU and KKK got plans to take out minorities like trash. Kick their ass out the multiculture. And you think they love you cause they invite you to the company picnic. Hang you like a pinata while they pick a stick and make youths wanna be Crips and Bloods that wear the same colors of police. They show no love. Same colors as PC and liberals those. Same colors are the choice from Morpheus to Neo. Same colors on the Amity banner. Same colors of the lodges that belong to the Shriner. Millennium, mental slave chain smasher. Ill hunting for gay rappers like gay bashers. Feeding the hip hop hungry through the headphone IV. True rastas listen and they think I'm Irie. He's him and I'm me, so don't get it twisted. So deep I drop a flow, you have to airlift it. Rap blue so hard, you think we crippin'. Most rappers just talk with no vision. Cause when the beast come rapper arrested is the cool one. Cause when the beef come murdered rapper is the cool one. Yeah. I know what Dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I'm going at dirty rappers lynching dirty ones too. Hiding literature that Drew wrote to warn you. They claim to make you Muslim and make you sovereign. With paperwork and filings, it's fiat, they robbing. They don't care about his words, throw it out like garbage. Or throw it at you when you're active, not passive. When they want to talk about bounce like off a trampoline mattress. Treat them like a vamp or a teen actress. Get stabbed with a brand like a mean savage. This inquisition's divine, all others average. Millennium Renaissance, heroes in our classes. Fed up with the czar controlling fascists. Ask if they heard about Moors, they say no. But Masons, they obviously know about the handshakes and rituals with skull and bones. They even know about owls burning in Bohemian Grove. I know what Dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I know what Dirty Moors did. Dirty Moors killed Drew. I read the FBI papers on loyal Moors, emergency fund rapers. Moorish literature and divine bylaw changes. Might as well say Drew Ali was born in a manger. Prophets push poison aside and his food smelled danger. Got me treating every Moor like a stranger. Grand Chief One-Kin stumbling drunk in the feds. What was proclaimed for every meeting was not read. Some more than so active prophet can't be dead. Thanks Moorish teachers away, I can't be led. Actions speak, then I consider what's said. And what's said was study, then study yourself. Honest to the prophet over Drew Ali. I know what dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. Everybody wants to be just like Drew Ali, but nobody wants to care about Drew Ali. I know what dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I know what dirty Moors did. I know what dirty Moors did. I know what dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I know what dirty Moors did. I know what dirty Moors did. I know what dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I know what dirty Moors did. I know what dirty Moors did. I know what dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I know what dirty Moors did. Ask your Garveyite and the NOI2. How come you don't know about truth? Ask your teacher, Master Masons, or your seafood. How come you don't know about truth? Go ask your reverend, ask your fam or crew. How come you don't know about truth? Ask the warlocks of rap, sipping evil witches brew. How come you don't know about truth? Elijah Pule is the Moorish national. Elijah Muhammad is the straw man shadow. York after Malachi is owned by the British. Zadok El is on the blue waiting for the idiots. Master of gods is Nuwapian's birthright. Teach from Nuwapian Morse paper they want to fight. Circle 7 is the universal flag. I rep that. And Clarence 13X is my dad. Drew Ali came first to save the mindless masses. Went from Moorish conventions to conscious classes. Went from feathers to koofies to baseball hats. Went from Rasta to Moorish. Replace the outside. Replace the RPG banner with a Moroccan flag. Replace Ross with cheek. Blast get toe tag. Till I see triple crown is a fez with no tassel. Showing temple cards as ID with no hassle. Ask the Garveyite and the NOI2. How come you don't know about truth? Ask your teacher, Master Masons, or your seafood. How come you don't know about truth? Go ask your reverend, ask your fam or crew. How come you don't know about truth? Ask the warlocks of rap, sipping evil witches brew. How come you don't know about truth? Illuminate rap and Masons. Moorish science, hip-hop renaissance, reverse Earth's global climate. Ask your Garveyite and the NOI2. How come you don't know about truth? Ask your teacher, Master Masons, or your seafood. How come you don't know about truth? Go ask your reverend, ask your fam or crew. How come you don't know about truth? Ask the warlocks of rap, sipping evil witches brew. How come you don't know about truth? Elijah Pule is the Moorish national. Elijah Muhammad is the straw man shadow. York after Malachi is owned by the British. Zadok El is on the blue waiting for the idiots. Master of gods is Nuwapian's birthright. Teach from Nuwapian Morse paper they want to fight. Circle 7 is the universal flag. I rep that. And Clarence 13X is my dad. Drew Ali came first to save the mindless masses. Went from Moorish conventions to conscious classes. Went from feathers to koofies to baseball hats. Went from Rasta to Moorish. Replace the outside. Replace the RPG banner with a Moroccan flag. Replace Ross with cheek. Blast get toe tag. Till I see triple crown is a fez with no tassel. Showing temple cards as ID with no hassle. Ask the Garveyite and the NOI2. How come you don't know about truth? Ask your teacher, Master Masons, or your seafood. How come you don't know about truth? Go ask your reverend, ask your fam or crew. How come you don't know about truth? Ask the warlocks of rap, sipping evil witches brew. How come you don't know about truth? Illuminate rap and Masons, rhyming Moorish science, hip-hop renaissance, reverse Earth's global climate. Out the dark ages, many pages get burned without the chance to flip, be read or turn. No learning, blacks enslaved by the vermin. The Moors victim to Inquisition is purging. The government violates violating the covenant of contract. Hip-hop general, Iron Sheik, no squad, the bomb track. Moors branded like Louisville Slugger Bass, with a name not theirs, void ab initio contract. Most don't get it, cause they don't study the law, but they come from the galaxy behind the furthest star. To fight legal battles, they hire the bar. Who obtains lead cause you abandon your rights thus far. Told you on Iron Sheik 2, no need to represent, just study the prophet and what he presents. Most don't stand for what he defends. Most elders over their mouth, they need the pens. Higher self ascends, lower he descends. Conscious without a nation means he pretends. She pretends, which means we pretend. Pick up abandoned birthrights and the healing begins. Build on pillars strong like 7 North-alleged twins. Iron Sheik 100%, most are partly skim. Ask the Garveyite and the NOI2. How come you don't know about truth? Ask your teacher, Master Masons, or your seafood. How come you don't know about truth? Go ask the Reverend, ask your fam or crew. How come you don't know about truth? Ask the warlocks of rap, sipping evil witches brew. How come you don't know about truth? Islam. It's good, Mars. You already know how the pop-up goes. You already know how the pop-up goes. So, it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. So we just have to kick this dead horse a few more times to stress the point. All right? That even when you're dead, we're still gonna come to kick you. Because it's not us. It's the people. It's the people that are tired of the BS. And the only people that count are the ones who are in line with the principles. Forget about person, place, or station. You writing on some principles? We can do some work together. What principles you got? Hey, Brother Yusuf, what principles you got? So they got you muted. We got some Moors in the chat. Moors in the chat. Just a simple question. What are your principles? Moors in the chat. What are your principles? Simple question. Just type it in the chat or use an acronym, whatever. You know, just if somebody asks you, hey, what's your principles? What are you going to tell them? So for people who don't see the chat, everybody's saying love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. The majority of votes went for the 5 principles that Noble Drew Ali brought to the Moors. So if it was brought to the Moors and the question could be asked, and all these Moors from wherever they're from, because none of those Moors in the chat are where I'm at physically. They're wherever they are. And they have the same mindset to have the same answer for the same basic question, then that's plebiscite. That's government. That's being on one accord. You know, temples came up. No body of Moors came up. No titles came up. No nothing. Simple question. And then the question The question's answer is 100 and how much ever percent truth, which proves that there's also unity, that people say Moors don't have unity and they don't get it along and all this BS. No, there's unity amongst the Moors. There's unity amongst the Moors. I'm going to try back with I think the phone is tripping. All right. So there's, forget these people having a consensus. We have our own consensus that, oh, the 5 principles are that. If all these Moors, that's their answer, okay, then that means that must be the 5 principles, if we say that we're Moors. You know what I mean? Because even if somebody didn't say 5, they said one of the 5. Right? This is Birthrights. Allah guides this. No Supreme Grand Sheikh, no Supreme Grand Council, no Moorish Consular Court, no Great Seal of the Association of Moorish Affairs, no RV Bay Publications, no Canaanland Moors, all that stuff. Allah guides this. What position are you taking? Oh yeah, and then this is how we're doing it, because this is the plug. This is the plug for the hats. This is the promotion. Right? This is the promotion. This is the promotion plug. StrengthinUnityBeads.com. StrengthinUnityBeads.com. Same question. Those are principles? Yeah, principles. All right. Now, strength in unity. Well, unity can't have that without love. So that's sort of, they even get a little pass. Even though they didn't say the principle, they named their thing after extension of one of our principles. So we read them, and of course, they got the Olmec with his fez, because not playing none of that Turtle Island BS, because we're Moors. We're Moors. We're not Negro, black, colored, or Indian, or autochthonous, Aboriginal, indigenous, whatever. We are Moors. If you're in the jurisdiction of the Americas, then you're Moorish American. And you being Moorish American, that ties you to an empire, a country. Forget country. Don't even have country in your mind, because that's creating a jurisdiction that has nothing to do with you. Find me a time in ancient teachers from any of our scholars that they talked about some African country. All we had was empires. The hell are you people talking about? You want to represent a country or a continent? That's it? You're limited to that? That's why people don't grasp the vastness of what Noble Drew Ali brought, because finite minds can't comprehend infinite. Finite minds are never going to comprehend infinite. Nothing personal. That's just what it is. So you can check the record that everybody said the 5 principles. Everybody said the 5 principles. No questions asked. No guessing. I think I'm gonna. Well, my grandma said that when, you know, real simple. People like to play games. And they're only playing games because they think that, you know, there's such a thing as bad publicity or whatever. Like, there's no bad publicity for Canaanland Moors. Like, we don't have any shame in our game. We upload everything. Because we're dealing with righteousness. We don't have nothing to hide if we're going to upload something. What are you editing? Edit what? I need to be clipping stuff out and taking stuff out, which is probably the important stuff. Now you're going to run for some 6 hours and never give one book reference. The hell do you do? Why the hell are you even on this thing? It was not to give reference points for people to go do their own research. Right? There's no skating around. We're Moors. Forget the tribal BS. This is Moroccan Empire. You know, tribe. Start talking about tribe, now you're under those people's Indian BS. You think you're cool because you're a maroon, when you should be saying that you're more. Tell me about some maroons are doing their own thing and whatever. They have a treaty with the British. That if they see their brother, they're not going to tell them that they're maroons. They're going to sell them back to the British. It's in the treaty. And they're not calling themselves who they know that they are, Moors. The Maroons and the Moors. No, what do you mean? The Moors. What do you mean? The Moors. It is not that hard to digest. One of those countries in the continent was part of the Moroccan Empire. So they're Moors. They won't be Moorish African because they have nationalities over there. They already know what's up. So there's dummies in North America above Mexico that don't want to have a nationality and call themselves everything else except what Noble Drew Ali told them that they are, Moorish Americans, which means they're descendants of Moroccans born in America, which means you're Moors. What more do you want? Use your common sense. That's unity. We just said, what's the 5 principles? Negro science, what's the 5 principles? Because I know you just came in here. Forget all the BS. If I say, hey, Negro science guy in the chat, if we ain't Moorish, then what's your principles? I just want to hear what you're going to say. Just a question. But you came late, so you missed the question. But we're just asking everybody who comes in the chat. We understand. We ain't descendants of Morocco. Fine. We're not. But what's your principles? What principles do you go by? All right, fine. We're from a Mexican. I agree with you. What principles do you go by? Not which people taught you or whatever. Which principles do you go by? No, principles. Principles. Land is not a principle. Law is not a principle. Those aren't principles. Mother is not a principle. You're talking person, places, things. I'm not talking about that. It's a principles. Give me your principles. Not debating nothing. Just asking a question. What's your principles? I don't care if Noble Drew Ali was holding a mother. I'm asking you, what are your principles? Now you're debating that law is a principle. So that's an example of a dirty Moor. Because he knows that he's a Moor. Because he said that we're from a Mexam. So obviously you're a Moor if you're from a Mexam. Obviously you're a Moor. Nobody else talks about a maxim but Morons. So obviously you're a Moor. We asked everybody in the chat what's their principles. They said their principles. We asked this individual what's their principle. They're talking about stuff and that has nothing to do with what the hell they got asked as a question. It's real simple. This is how you know the sellouts, because that's how sellouts talk. You see how that just set itself up without, it just came to me, hey, you know what I'm gonna call this today? This is how you know sellouts, by how they talk. And then here's a sellout right now showing you. And we're not playing that BS about, you know, well, he didn't know and all that stuff. Forget all that. If you're not down with what's real, you're a sellout and you're a traitor. That's just what it is. Nothing personal. You know what I mean? Doesn't mean I'm still not gonna come to the barbecue and stuff like that. I'm still gonna come and chill and whatever. But you know, real recognize real. And too much fake is going on around here right now. Too much fake. Too much no hearts. Too much revenge of the nerds. Too much.
Yep.
Right? And again, we already know there's only going to be a handful saved. So we're not looking to get no 5 million people to like this and then, oh yeah, now we saved the nation. Nation's already saved. Boat already left the dock. We're just trying to get these last people who were playing around. That they've been supposed to be on what they're supposed to be on, but they're playing around. Right? Playing. Because that's what they're sent to do. They're sent to do what they're doing.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Moore. I'm itching a little bit over there.
No, because you had just said, you know, somebody sent them. You know somebody sent them. And also you mentioned earlier about country, and you mentioned the word country and empire. Now, if anybody looks in, if they look up the etymology of either one of them, country and empire, you'll see that country is the 13th. We don't even have to go into the definition. We just know that country is a 13th century word and empire is 11th century. So we know which one came first. And then if you want, you can go into the definitions, you know, if you want to go look up the words, but you'll see which one is more important and which one looks like it's kind of fraud. You'll see it.
And then you have to ask yourself the question, why would people go with the fraud?
Right.
Why would they know that it's fraud, but then go with it under the guise that they're for their people and all this? Obviously, they're working for the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they're a double agent working against you because they want you to think that this is about some type of religious thing or some type of spiritual thing or some type of whatever. When this is all encompassing. This includes every facet of your life that you thought had nothing to do with yourself. You thought everything you're doing is for somebody else. Because the word is God and only God could utter the word. Nobody, who else is gonna, if the word is God, then it has to be God to utter. The only way it's gonna manifest. And everybody know God is right back to the feminine principle. The fraud is what they're supporting. Just like they're going to get mad, right? They're going to get mad. These are Moors now, right? Moors are going to talk BS about, Moors are going to talk BS about Bill Clinton and Dodge drafting and whatever like that, because, you know, you're supposed to serve the country and all this BS. It's not a country. This is a colonial corporation that you're saying you're going to fight for. And they're going to send you somewhere across the other side of the world. And you're so army and all that stuff, and you got so much gun club and all that stuff, you wouldn't fight for what's going on right here. You need to go across the world to go fight. And then go over there, and then they take your hand or whatever like that, or take your foot because you don't know that you have brothers all over the world. You're fighting for this European corpse to stay alive, going and killing your brothers. Your brothers say, all right, we're going to spare you, spare your life or whatever. They'll take your foot and send you back over. And they'll tell you that people, stuff happened in mines and they stepped on a mine and their foot got blew off or whatever. You know that stuff going on. How come it's only our people? How come all the Europeans go over there, they get murdered or whatever? And then it's all people that's coming back over here, crippled, all messed up, mind messed up from some war that had nothing to do with them. And you don't realize that this is population control? That this is the same eugenics program that they've been running on the mother? Now everybody's in on it now? Everybody's in on it. People fighting for a colonial corpse. They're going to go to war and then come back over here, give thanks to, you know, those who did their little service or whatever. From the principal's perspective, we know why you joined. We get it. We're letting you know they played you. Because you went over there and you murdered your brothers and sisters for this corpse. Under the guise of you're bringing some liberty to some corpse, calling it a country.
They been doing it since the Inquisition.
Yeah, this is not some Moorish thing. This is world history. This is not some Moorish, and so the Moors are, oh, well, the way the Moors talk, it's like they're whatever, and they're trying to anti-government. No, we're talking historical. Go fact check everything that we're talking about. Fact check everything. Guarantee you're going to find stuff, and then more stuff on top of what you found, what we're saying, to let you know how real this is. To Moorish Americans who are in Moorish Science Temple and say they were Noble Drew Ali or whatever, they're going to get mad at Clinton for dodging draft. They talk BS. But what did he know that these dumbasses don't know? Again, you know, thank you for your service to the corpse. Those who were there from a sincere perspective. We get why you went. We're just letting you know they played you. Because they're a colonial operation. And you went and worked for them. To go do the real dirty work. Why people could sit back over here and then not have to do any certain things. And they could be comfortable over here. Like, realize that he knew something why he dodged. What did he know? Maybe he knew about this. Few efforts of human behavior modification are more remarkable or more effective than that of the socio-military institution known as the draft. A primary purpose of a draft or other such institution is to instill by intimidation in the young males of a society the uncritical conviction that the government is omnipotent. Keep in mind how the Moorish Science Temple or whatever people talk about this whole thing about their government and stuff like that. And when they say their government, they're pointing to the stars and stripes. Like, watch these Moors. He is taught that a prayer is slow to reverse what a bullet can do in an instant. Thus, a man trained in a religious environment for 18 years of his life can, by this instrument of the government, be broken down, be purged of his fantasies and delusions in a matter of mere months. Once that conviction is instilled, all else becomes easy to instill. Remember, this is just a draft we're talking about. We're not talking about the BS music that people are forcing themselves to listen to and all that stuff because they choose to listen to radio or Sirius or, you know, whatever, wherever they get music from now. Wherever it is that they're saying plug in and get music, what they're getting is the same thing like they're talking about, being broken down, being purged of your fantasies and delusions in a matter of mere minutes in the case of the music or whatever. And in the case of just have the screen in your hand now, you don't have to go push the button and make the thing load up and all that stuff. You just put it out your pocket and it's right there. You have to pay for that. And you're not paying in finances or money or fiat or whatever you call it. You're not paying in that. You're paying on being broken down, being purged of your fantasies. Instead of fantasies, put goals there. Being purged of that. What X-laxes? That purges you. So imagine they're purged. Why would they purge you of your fantasies and your delusions? What are they putting in to replace that? Even more interesting is the process by which a young man's parents, who purportedly love him, can be induced, look up induced to send him off to war to his death. Although the scope of this work will not allow this matter to be expanded in full detail, nevertheless, hold on. So, although the scope of this work will not allow this matter to be expanded in full detail, like what they've told us thus far isn't enough to know that something's definitely wrong here. By this point of them talking about, although the scope of this work will not allow this matter to be expanded in full detail, have you researched the socio-military institution to see just what comes up? Again, have you looked at induced? Why would they say the parents are induced to send the son off to war and his death? Although the scope of this work will not allow this matter to be expanded in full detail, nevertheless, a course overview will be possible and can serve to reveal those factors which must be included in some numerical form in a computer analysis of social and war systems. We begin with a tentative definition of the draft. The draft, selective service, etc., is an institution of compulsory collective sacrifice and slavery, devised by the middle-aged and the elderly for the purpose of pressing the young into doing the public dirty work. It further serves to make the youth as guilty as the elders, thus making criticism of the elders by the youth less likely. Generalization stabilizer. Generalization or generational stabilizer. If
that's genetic,
right?
I mean,
good one.
What is it? That's what is it called? Eugenics.
Yeah, generational.
That's eugenics, right there.
Generational stabilizer.
Yep, that's the definition of eugenics, right there.
It further
generational stabilizer. That's eugenics.
It further serves to make the youth as guilty as the elders, thus making criticism of the elders by the youth less likely. This is how the sellouts got. This is how the sellouts got the pass.
Yep.
Because the youth, they already knew that the elders messed up. But what are they gonna do about it? They think that they're youth, they're gods and all that. And the ball wouldn't have dropped. If we look at even Dr. York L., the ball wouldn't have dropped if everybody was on their game, on their law game. If everybody wasn't on their Noble Drew Ali game, like he was on his Noble Drew Ali game, since he put out a Noble Drew Ali book for the Nuwaubians, specifically for them. He published a Noble Drew Ali book for them. The ball got dropped because everything was brought already. Not everybody did what it is that he did. Proclaim the nationality, then claim the land. Once you claim the land, you build on it, and then that's your community. And nobody can tell you anything because you have your own community on your own land. Like, we know Nuwaubians and Europeans in that jurisdiction of where the land was, were down with that there. They were supporting that. There was acres of land that Europeans wanted to give to Dr. York. Just give, like, okay, here, you just have it because we know that you're back. Look what the hell you did. I'm in Egypt right now. I'm in Egypt right now. Where am I? That I could look across the highway and there's pyramids over there. This is European talking. You seen Mr. African American and all those people on the land with Doc? What do you mean? You know, like we said, the sellouts have their motives. It is marketed and sold to the public under the label of patriotic national service, right? Letting you know that this is about the patriarchs going around murdering the matriarchs, because you already know the soldier will be stuff, and then the guy's going to go there, rape women, and all types of madness. Because it's all men. What do you mean? You go to some little rinky-dink bar in the Philippines or something like that, like, that's, you know, not being in the right jurisdiction if you're a female. Because all these dudes just been around dudes or whatever. You think they're not going to go nuts? Even going again back to the general stabilizer. Patriotic national. That's a patriarchal war machine. Their duty is push patriarchy every day, all day. Once a candid economic definition of the draft is achieved, that definition is used to outline the boundaries of a structure called a human value system, which in turn is translated into the terms of game theory. The value of such a slave laborer is given in a table of human values, a table broken down into categories by intellect, experience, post-service job demand, etc. Some of these categories are ordinary and can be tentatively evaluated in terms of the value of certain jobs for which a known fee exists. Some jobs are harder to value because they are unique to the demands of social subversion. For an extreme example, the value of a mother's instructions to her daughter, causing that daughter to put certain behavioral demands upon a future husband. 10 or 15 years hence, thus, by suppressing his resistance to a perversion of a government, making it easier for a banking cartel to buy the state of New York in 20 years. Such a problem leans heavily upon the observations and data of wartime espionage and many types of psychological testing. But crude mathematical models, algorithms, can be devised, if not to predict, at least to predetermine these events with maximum certainty. This is why these people are putting all this analytics in basketball now, and people are freaking wrestling. How are you wrestling? Like, where did the switch come in? For them to say, you get to rest during the season so that you can have more end for the playoffs. Something's not right. That's something happened that created a generational stabilizer. Because it wasn't like that. When Jordan played the sick game, like he couldn't even play and he played. Islamor, go ahead.
No, I had sent you something. I want to know if you had got it. I sent you through the WhatsApp.
Oh, hold on.
Sent you a photo. Just because you was going over the draft.
Yeah.
Found something real interesting because I know they spell draft draft.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But the photo I sent you, they spell draft or draft draff.
Yeah.
Right? You see the definition?
Yeah. I see it. Yeah. A selecting or detaching of soldiers from an army or from any part of it or from a military post, also from any district or any company or collection of persons or from the people at large, also the body of men thus drafted.
Now, what's crazy and very interesting is how they spell it.
Yeah.
Right? Now, when I saw that, I said, okay, this is weird. Because we look at draft as draft. And I'm pretty sure in your reading, they spell it draft.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I looked up the word draft, draff, in Black's Law Dictionary. Right? It says on page 582, draft, draff. It says waste matter, sweepings, refuse, leaves or dregs. In weighing commodities, the term signifies dust and dirt, and not what is generally meant by drought or draft. Now, I also thought that was interesting too. Like, now what you're seeing is soldiers or whatnot, right? What they say that.
Yeah.
But in law, but it also says a collection of persons, and we know that persons is not good.
Yeah.
But so it says in law, it calls them waste matter. I thought that was just very interesting. Like, okay, so what's going on? Is it draft or is it draff?
Yeah.
Which draft are you in? Because it does have draft underneath it, the definition of draft. But in this definition, I don't see anything about soldiers or nothing like that. But when you type in draft on, because I typed in into the draft, and that came up. That definition came up. draff.
Right, but then again, right? That's what if the soldier, because also too, when you look at it, the one under that, draftsman, anyone who draws or frames a legal document, which again goes back having nothing to do with military or anything like that.
Right.
Because a draftsman would have something to do with draft. And then the draft is the common term for a bill of exchange as being drawn by one person on another. An order for the payment of money drawn by one person on another. Draft. The term includes a cashier's check. But a draft is distinguishable from a cashier's check in that a draft is a bill of exchange payable on demand purporting to be drawn on deposit, while a cashier's check is a primary obligation of a bank which issues it and constitutes its written promise to pay upon its demand.
Okay, so when you're into the draft, what's going on now? I don't get that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get it. I don't even know what's going on now. When you into the draft, what are you talking? In law specific, law governs everything. So when they're telling you you're entering the draft, what is going on? Where's the Army and Navy and Marines talk? Grand Sheik said a cashier's check. What's going on, man?
All right. So really and truly, it's draft, which is what soldiers are: waste matter, refuse, lees, or dregs. In weighing commodities, the term signifies dust and dirt. And not what is generally meant by drought or draft. Right, so they are most definitely persons.
Yeah.
And then if you're a person, that means you have no rights, you're property. And if you're property, that means you're civiliter mortuus.
Right. It says not generally the draft. So that what you was reading, the cashier's check and all of that, that's what you're not. You're the draft. DRAFF.
Yeah.
Waste matter. It's telling you. It's telling you.
And like more in the chat said, they did the word. This is a word spell.
Yeah.
Again, going back to how dirty Moors talk. Because they would make you think draft has something to do with go to the army or whatever.
Yeah.
When that's not draft. Draft is what King Alfred Plan just said.
There you go. Mm-hmm.
Draft is DRAFF.
Mm-hmm.
That they're going to use you as waste matter, as dust and dirt.
Yeah.
And ask anybody who's been to one of those. That's just like prison.
Yeah.
Just the opposite pole. And again, honors to be people who have served. Honors to Moors who have served.
Oh yeah, son.
Right.
But this is bugging me out right here. I don't know what's going on.
That's why, because Allah guides this. Allah guides this. Right.
That's why I be like, as soon as they talk, I be like, man, just look up everything they say. Just look it up. Enter the draft. What's that? Right. What's that? But when it's too, like you started talking about the sports just now, you know, because they enter that type of draft.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The NBA and the football and all of that.
Yep.
You have that draft.
Yep. And then that draft is really not that draft. It's draft.
Right. Draft. Waste matter.
Waste matter.
Sweepings.
Nigga, go play. Oh, you broke your face? Don't worry. Here's a mask. Go play.
Yep.
Oh, your ankle, whatever? Oh, don't worry. We got the top doctor. You'll be back in 2 days. Go play.
Right. Just shoot him up with this cortisone shot, this Vicodin right here, and go right back out there.
And that's not some hearsay or whatever, because Brother Yusuf was that level athlete.
Oh, absolutely.
So I'm sure
they would check you right up.
I'm sure he can tell you.
No issue.
I'm sure he can tell you that it is real. Right? Draft.
They'll come right over there asking you, what do you need? Because they already know what drugs you need to make that pain go away. Because you got to get back out there.
Mm-hmm.
Because your waste matter.
Yeah.
Dirt and dust doesn't even matter. That's crazy. But then when like Master Teacher Todd say, when you talk like that, they look, now you're out to lunch.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now you're out to lunch. Once you go tell the people, oh, what we just read in law and everything, oh, you're out to lunch. You look like crazy man. Now, because that's not, oh, that's a conspiracy, United States is a no. They tell you into the draft, right? And okay, let's look it up. Just look it up the word. There's no argument, debate. What does the word mean? Look it up.
That's simple. It's that simple.
Start wondering how certain people didn't have to enter the draft, so-called.
Yeah, because they know what it is.
I remember, like I said, like I love to say, Grand Sheik, I'm the dust in the corner that didn't get swept up. And I figured that out.
Yeah.
So if I knew that, they knew that.
Had to.
I'm nothing. I'm nothing. Nothing.
Right. So again, that's how the sellouts talk. Right? They'll talk like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Another thing that the sellouts would try to do. Go ahead more into something. One sec.
Yeah, like the Grand Sheik was saying. That's exactly what they're going to do. That's the way they talk. They talk to put us back into slavery. Back into slavery. Moorish talking about the Grand Sheik, Moorish Canadian. How when he comes back, we're going to go in on that too. Because that's fraud. That's fraud. No way you can be Moorish Canadian when all of that is so-called North America. All of that. And then, actually, I asked the Grand Sheik first, what came first, the 13 colonies or Canada? Because then you can just start searching off from there. We already know it's a corporation or whatnot. But when you just start looking up, who looked it up? I mean, who made up the word Canada, the origins of it? It's actually, I found an article where it's actually up for debate. It's been up for debate since the 1850s. Who named Canada and the origin of the word Canada?
Okay, so before you do that too, with the origins of words and names. So this was one question that Amor asked that I saw it earlier, and he read the mind and he put the question again. Why, for example, our nationality as Moors being a tribal name with Moor after it, and then a continent geographical location? Example, Iroquois Moor, indigenous to the Americas. So the whole point of it, the bottom line with regard to Noble Drew Ali is that we're Moors. We're descendants of Moroccans. We're Moorish American because we're descendants of Moroccans. We're not Moorish American because we're in America. We're Moorish American because we're descendants of Moroccans who were born in America. We're descendants of Moroccans. Then you go to Moroccans and then it tells you about the Moabites. And then you have a track record. Like you actually have a track record. So once you go back to the ancient mindset of your foremothers and forefathers, you're not going to call yourself Iroquois or whatever. That's modern. Not going to call yourself that. Because you know that it's compromised. Just like Jew. You're not going to call yourself Jew. That's compromised. That's a compromised name claiming that. So with that, you put something on it. Moorish Jew or whatever to be specific. But you don't do that on national names. Or you don't do that on tribes. We say that, put Moorish in front of anything for the sake of argument with people. Because they don't want to be Moors. Okay, don't wear a fez, don't whatever, just put Moorish in front of everything. So we could have some unity. Since you don't want to be Moors, fine, call yourself Moor. Don't be it, but just call yourself it. We're not even telling you to have a nationality card and all that. We're just saying, what's your organization called? The Black whatever, okay, just put Moor in there. The Black and Moor, whatever your organization name is. The Moorish ISPUK or whatever. The Great Moorish Millstone or something. No, Bamnu goes up. That's why he said Kemetic Moors. And then that's why they attacked him. Because he been had them in court as a Moor for all types of stuff because of quote unquote music career. And you realize you signed some BS contract and these people own all your royalties and all that stuff. And you know that, hold on a second, if I'm a Moor, I could sue them and get back my stuff. We're talking about somebody who toured the world and all that stuff. Everybody knows who he is. But how come nobody's talking about when he was a member of Nature's Temple and he was going to temple and Nature El Bey was Africa Bambaata's Grand Sheik. And he had these people in court crazy. They're trying to go at him, and he's going at them. Because he was active more. So the so-called blacks in Europe, they're Moors. We're Moorish American because we're descendants of Moroccan born in America. That's what our lessons are as far as who we are on this side. Over there, I know that they're Moors. What branch of Moor that they are would be determined on, them doing their research. It's not like there's not Moors there. There's L's and Bays in Europe who they're from over there. And they know about their nationality and birthrights. They know that they're Moors. They know that they're Moors. I'm not concerned about the ones who don't know. The ones who don't know, they don't know. But I know Moors are over there. And they're from that side. And they know they're Moors. And they know about Noble Drew Ali. And we ask them what principles, and they'll say love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, just like everybody else. To prove the point. Right? So yeah, more back to the Canada.
Yeah, it was just I hope I still got it. It was just a book. Oh, here we go. It's a book called Naming the Lauritanians, A History of Place Names Up North. Right? And it just goes in on the main Canada itself. On different arguments on who named Canada, where it came from. Like for instance, it says the argument as to whether Canada comes from from there they were talking about, okay, I gotta read all of it. The French under Champlain had allied themselves originally with the Algonquin and Montagnards, but in the 1530s, almost a century earlier, Jacques Cartier had met what appeared to be different people in the shores of St. Lawrence. They were the Iroquois and were subsequently displaced, perhaps as a result of disease brought by their interactions with Carter. He took the name for a village, Canada, or Canada, K-N-A-T-A, and applied it to the countryside along the shore of St. Lawrence River below the Santicone, or present-day Quebec City. The argument as to whether Canada comes from there or from the Montagnards has been going on since the colony was first created. And depending upon who is right, the word Canada could mean quite different things. According to the Father Albert Lacombe, writing in 1874, if the Montagnards were the people who gave us the name Canada, it came from the word for foreigner, someone coming from afar. Canatats. It is possible that the earlier settlers accepted the name they were called as a way of having an identity to the Montagnards. So they were even saying those Indians were calling the foreigners Canadians.
Yeah.
So, and it goes on and on about different arguments about when the word came. But then it'll tell you in 1857, I think it was like 1857, 18 something after, or 1850 and after, the British made Canada a dominion. Like it was like, now it's a dominion type thing. Like it wasn't like that.
But now we'll go 100 years before that. Canada was divided into Hudson Bay Company and New France. So if Hudson's Bay Company and New France were what it was called before it was called Canada, how come we're not going back to that? If you're going to say, because we're up here, we're not Moorish American. So are we New Franken? Or
Right.
are we New Hudson's Bay Company? Because if we're going back to our ancient foremothers and forefathers, and Drew Ali told us we're Moorish Americans, but our ancient foremothers were Canaanites, Moabites, and all that, then that means it's one and the same. So if it's one and the same, you can't talk about Moorish Canadians unless you're talking about pre that name Canada. Because we have more of a claim on Moorish American, because this has always been America, no matter how Hudson Bay Company and New France and New Spain and British colonies and Louisiana Purchase and all this. That's not history from over here. That's foreigner history. That's foreigner coming here and doing whatever it is that they're doing. That's not our actual existence. So when we go to our existence, we see that the most common name that everybody knows us as is Moors. So we connect ourselves to anything that's Moorish. And other than the Bay, Hudson's Company is not Moorish. Because the Hudson Bay jurisdiction was way outside of Hudson Bay. So why would it be called Hudson Bay? If there's the grant that they got from the Brits to say Hudson's Bay Company in order to start whatever it is that they're starting as far as colonization further north. They have to, because again, this is the Moorish Empire, they have to use the name that gives them the title jurisdiction. Because remember, they're cheating. They told you that when Canada was a colony, okay, so then it's a colony then. It's not a country. That's not one and the same. Something being called a colony and then years later it being called a country, there's a problem with that. Because it's a colony. Right? And then remember also, before it was Canada, it was British North America. So how come it's British North America in 1783, and then somebody's telling you about Canada, which was 1867? But then they're telling you about honor foremothers and forefathers or whatever, but they're not going back to where the honor is. It would have been impressive if instead of them saying that we're Moorish Canadians, that we're British North Americans. Say that. But then you sound like a dumbass and you sound like you're really working with the foreigner, because obviously this is not Britain over here. So why would anything over here be British unless a foreigner is talking? Only foreigners talk like that. They're a foreigner, but they're saying they're an American. No different than these people say Hudson Bay. And you're thinking B-A-Y because there's a bay over there. And then same thing with like the giraffe. word spells on you? Have you messed up? Don't even know what you're thinking about because you don't even know what you're saying. And they would never say that we're Moorish, British, North Americans. If you go to before Canada, that's what over here was. British North America. If you're gonna say Canada, then why not just say British North America? Because that's really what it is. But they can't say that, because then they'll look like a dumbass. And it would prove that they're agents and sellouts and traitors. So they have to mask it. They have to mask it. You know exactly what they're doing.
Quick question for you, Banshee.
Yeah, boy.
Why would these Moors go along with the colonization? No, okay, like you just mentioned, Canada started off as a colony, right? So it was a colony, not a country. So then, if they're gonna call a Moorish Canadian, that means they're going along with the colonization. Why would they keep going along with the colonization? Like that's the whole thing. Like they're purposely trying to put their people back into slavery, because that's by definition that's what they're doing. By them calling Moorish Canadians, you just put your brother back into slavery.
Yep. After Noble Drew Ali came and took them out. So what does that mean? That they're agents, right?
Yep. But like you said, somebody sent them. Somebody is sending these guys. That's my whole thing, because they just don't just show up for no reason. There's always an agenda behind what they're doing. I know it's obvious somebody sent them.
Yeah, they have a time that they pop up. Yep, agents. Agents. And again, when we're looking at how dirty Moors talk, they always play this Canada-United States game. Right? We talked about this earlier. You want to know who's violating the prophet? Don't let them have you look at Cujo. Say Cujo's violating. I told these Moors that they're Moorish American. Told these Moors they're Moorish American. All right? They know this, that we're Moorish American. Again, chapter 45. The fallen sons and daughters of the Asiatic nation of North America need to learn to love instead of hate, and to know of his higher self and lower self. This is the uniting of the Holy Quran of Mecca for the teaching and instructing all Moorish Americans. Teaching and instructing what? All what? Right? And then they say, well, he said etc. there, so that means he meant Moorish Canadians. No. He's getting to why he said etc. there. He's not there yet. The key of civilization was and is in the hands of the Asiatic nations. The Moorish, who were the ancient Moabites and the founders of the holy city of Mecca. The Egyptians, who were the Hammatites and of a direct descendant of Mizraim. The Arabians, the seed of Hagar, Japanese and Chinese. The Hindus of India, the descendants of the ancient Canaanites, Hittites, and Moabites from the land of Canaan. The Asiatic nations and countries in North, South, and Central America. The Moorish Americans and Mexicans in North America. The Moorish Americans and Mexicans in North America. So how come he doesn't say Moorish Canadians there?
That's what I was waiting on to hear. I'm like, where's the Moorish Canadian?
It's clear who's violating the prophet. It's clear. Because the sellouts, they don't care. They do not care. We know they don't too. Yeah, go ahead, Mar. Hit me up.
Talking to me, Green?
No. Somebody texted me.
Okay.
Yeah, somebody texted me. See, special guest calling in soon. Like the Asiatic nations and countries in North, South, and Central America. The Moorish Americans and Mexicans in North America. That's Noble Drew Ali's words. That's Noble Drew Ali's words. How come Noble Drew Ali didn't say Moorish Canadian when he was referring to the people of North America? Now I'm questioning this article about, oh, hold on, more. Islam, more. Peace, more.
Islam, more, what you said?
Islam, everything's good, yo.
Islam, more. Islam, brother, you said Islam, brother, Islam. Islam, boy.
Yeah, yo.
What's going on? Good hearing you, man. Great hearing you.
We're here. I'm just looking at this Moorish Canadian thing and all this, people talking crazy. And whether Noble Drew Ali said for us to be Moorish Americans or Moorish Canadians, even though that wasn't said anywhere in his literature that Moors were Canadians. He mentioned Canadians. He mentioned Toronto. He mentioned citizens of Toronto. He didn't say no citizens of Canada. And I'm not buying that BS that Toronto is part of Canada because Toronto is older than Canada. Just go look it up. So there's no way he can tell me Toronto has citizens, but in Noble Drew Ali's time, Canada didn't have citizens. Because by saying we're Moorish, you know, if you're going to ride with Noble Drew Ali, you should be saying we're Moorish Torontonians.
True.
That's where you should be going. How come you're not saying we're Moorish Torontonians? Because you know that's BS. Because if you say it like they said, if I'm a citizen of Baltimore, that means I'm a citizen of Maryland or I'm a citizen of America. Because those are synonymous. All right. Islam, Brother Sheldon. I know you called in for something.
Yeah, Islam. No, I think this whole Moorish Canadian thing is so ridiculous. Like every time I hear it from, especially a Moor, it makes me feel shame. It makes me feel shame because it's so uneducated. It's not even funny. Like outside of the fact that the U.S. is not America, it's the United States of America. Right? Outside of that, I did the United Statesians, Common Sense Quickie and all that stuff. Like, so outside of all of that, even outside of what you just read that the prophet said, right? It's in the 101s, it says that our flag is 10,000 years old, or 102s, I should say, 10,000 years old. Some say 50,000 years old, right? So if that's our flag, the Moorish American flag, is Canada 10,000 years old?
Mm-hmm.
Is Canada 50,000 years old? As far as I know, Canada was founded in what was it, 1867?
1867.
1867, and it appeared in documents in 1777 in Articles of Confederation. That is nowhere near 10,000 years old or 50,000 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's in the Prophet's literature. It says that our flag is that old, and our ancestral estate, the Prophet said, is North, Central, and South America and the adjoining islands, over until Africa and in Southeast Asia and all of that. How are they getting this Moorish Canadian thing?
Somebody sent them.
It's so beyond, like, it's so beyond, I'm just going to say it, man. It's so beyond dumb and stupid. Like, come on, man. Like, are people really that stupid? Like, that's why I feel shame when Moors are supposed to be educated. And they're still on this, like, that's still being said.
Right, and because everybody is looking at them as Moors, with their lack of knowledge of what this really is, they're going to make that the standard of what it means to be a Moor.
Right.
That they're going to see Moors walking on the street and know that we say we're Moorish Americans, but some guy on YouTube says Moorish Canadians, and then they want to try to be that.
I mean, it's utterly ridiculous. Like, this is basic geography. Like,
yeah, basic geography.
These people now graduate from high school or something, or even go to high school. It's basic geography. Matter of fact, I shouldn't even say high school, because you learned this in elementary school. Like Todd State, third grade grammar. Third grade.
More adventures.
More adventures. Third grade. But it's ridiculous. This is basic geography. Basic geography.
Yeah.
and they're still saying that the U.S. is America. I feel shame, man.
I feel shame for them.
For real, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, like, because to like you're saying, not even that these people are Moors. They're supposed to be a divine minister and a grand sheikh. This is somebody who supposedly went through Addip chamber and all that.
And don't know basic geography.
Because to be divine minister and grand sheikh, you have to go through the Addip chamber.
Right.
But then again, you know, in this day and age, there's Moors who can buy their way through the Addip chamber. You don't have to pass any degrees. I know we went through degrees. We had a weekend. Go through our degrees. And we absorbed as much as we could absorb and went through the Addip chamber. Because these Moors told us, you know, dirty Moors took over this movement. We could just give you a charter. Like, we could just give you a charter, because Noble Drew Ali said, if you want a charter, ask Prophet, man, you get a charter. Ain't no big deal. Because there's a structure how this runs, and if you don't do what's supposed to, it's going to tear you up. It's that simple. You know what I mean? So you're either going to go in line with this, or then you're going to get tore up. Which one you want? You know, go through the Addip chamber, because Moors are going to be challenging you on, did you go through the Addip chamber when we give you the charter? So we're going to force you through the Addip chamber. Remember, this is from some stuff that, you know, you have to, temple dues got to be up to date, and, you know what I mean? You got to have, you know, good standing with all the members and whatever. In order to be divine minister, grand sheikh, grand governor, grand whatever title, that's Addip chamber title. That means you've come into the silent brotherhood. But some people took silent brotherhood to be some Masonic whatever. Some people took silent brotherhood to be, you know, some Masonic perspective. And then they did that to the Addip chamber. And then once they did that to the Addip chamber, then that means they can control who runs the Moorish movement. Because in order to be a grand whatever, you have to go through the Addip chamber. All they got to do is say, you can't go through the Addip chamber. We'll put through who we want to put through the Addip chamber. So when you hear they're mad that Alim Bey is a grand sheikh and Taj is a grand sheikh or whatever, it's because of other Moors. There's some other Moors who didn't have that religiousized, dogmatized Moorish Science Temple mindset, that saw individuals that were resonating on a certain vibration and give them all the goods. So at least this work could keep going, because we don't really have too many people that we can pass this on to. And trust me, word is bond. We were one of those people who some Moors looked and said, oh, damn, we can't get Moors across the street to come to the temple. These Moors are traveling from Canaanland, and then they're going to go to Mecca, and then they're going to receive their charter and all that stuff and go back spreading this gospel, you're like, yep, these are the ones. Not because of some clout chasing. Remember the Moors in the Moor Science Temple, who I know for a fact that Taharqa Bey's divine minister or Grand Sheikh or National Grand Sheikh is Kenny Umar Bey. Because Kenny Umar Bey put me through the Arab chamber. He's one of the Moors that put me through Arab chamber. So if he put me through Arab chamber and brought out the article and stuff like that, that Noble Drew Ali's going to Canada and the citizens of Toronto and all this stuff, how come they never called me Moorish Canadian? How come? How come the Moors who put us through the Arab chamber didn't play Moorish Canadian with us? How come they told us that we're Moorish American? And then I'm supposed to go with the guy who just came yesterday's lessons, not the lessons of the people who put me through the Arab chamber? I'm telling you, Taharqa Bey knows Kenny Umar Bey personally. He has his number. Guaranteed he has his number. If he has his number, if he has his number, how is it that he's not debating Kenny Umar Bey about we're Moorish Americans? Like the Moor said, this is some basic stuff. This is not even nothing crazy.
Basic. That's the thing that it's super, super basic. The fact that we're having this conversation is absolutely ridiculous. You know what I'm saying?
And again, the convo is only being had so people could learn where not to go if they care about their Moorish movement, if they care about their prophet, and if they care about this nation. Because guarantees, Chinese would have already sent some dragon whoever's to go deal with people, and they would not even be around. Yeah, because of all the treason that they're committing on the nation under the guise of, they have an amendment right to free speech and all this BS. And they're not about free speech, for real free speech. They're not about that. They're about play games with people's birthright. These people know that they sold out. That's why we told people a long time ago. There's Moors out there that you're going to get lots of information from. Unless you send some questions or ask some questions or whatever like that, we're putting out all the traitors. We're letting you know who all the righteous people are so you can know who the traitors are. If we never called their name and gave them honors, you probably don't want to pay any attention to those people. Because people sold out your Moorish movement. Right? And then you're going to have trolls coming in the chat asking about, are we Moroccans and all this? We're not no kingdom of Moroccans. Yeah, we're Moroccans. That's why we said Moorish, because Moorish is pertaining to anything of the Moors, which Morocco has to do with the Moors. We already got our birthright. And then for the thing earlier, here's a Moor that's across the water. And he'll tell you that over there, there are Moors. Matter of fact, aren't you over there right now?
Yeah. It's freaking 2:30 in the morning.
I just had a jolly weekend flashback. I thought you were here. I thought you were here. Got caught up. Yeah, yo. So how long did it take to become a Grand Sheik? For me, right, based on what I went through. Can't say this for anybody else. Based on I went through, it took me a weekend to become a Grand Sheik. But on a spiritual level, from 2008, on a spiritual level, it probably took 10 years. 10 years to, sift through all the whatever to get to the position to be able to accept what Noble Drew Ali presented and making an obligation to stand for that and represent that to the best of my ability based on where my head's at. On the paper level, as far as a Grand Sheik, so I have a paper that says that whatever and all that, and we have a charter and all that game, a weekend to let you know that once your spirit's right, you're straight. I mean, these Moors knew that we weren't like the rest of the Moors, and that's not because of merely a 14-hour bus ride that we sacrificed and said we'll just do that to go there. You know what I mean? It was the years before that, being the Negro black and all that stuff, learning in there. But like we tell people all the time, don't get caught up in the titles, because we got taught that. We got taught we're Moors. There's not no Grand Sheik and Grand whatever, and somebody saying they're potentate, and this other guy is saying he's the emperor of something, and this guy's Noble Drew whatever, and all this. People call themselves Ali, and then they're the controller of the Holder in Due Course Foundation or whatever. It's not about person or station. It's about your birthright. Like, for real. I just do the Grand Sheik whatever because people, they respect that. So all right, I'll say I'm that. But I am Divine Minister too. And I'm also Grand Governor too. Because, I was the last of the Mohicans. Because Moors in the temple were even fighting those Moors. Can you, Omar Bey knows? He knows what those Moors went through. Madness against Moor Science Temple. And they always push the lesson. Nothing's wrong with the temple. It's not the temple that's the problem. Once you have some proper people in the temple's going to run properly. Nothing's wrong with it. It's the administration that's the problem. Because they haven't been administering. They've been proselytizing and prostrating and castrating and doing all types of BS that they shouldn't even be doing. with the Moorish movement, which is people's birthright. It's not their thing because they're a grand whatever. So yeah, I rep some Grand Sheik. Somebody's parole officer called me about something or whatever. This is Grand Sheik Cujo. Yeah, this is Grand Sheik. Some imam or whoever like that trying to, oh yeah, I'm a divine minister. Like my stuff's higher than your stuff. What are you talking about? Do you want me to be part of a church and all that stuff? What are you talking about? I know you got fez at home. What are you trying? You need me in your congregation because you won't have one. Right? How is it that I'm a grand governor? How? How is that? Because these Moors looked at Canaanland as a state of Morocco. The perspective that I'm Grand Governor is head of a temple for a specific jurisdiction or quote unquote state. Like state governor, okay, that's Grand Governor. That's the position that Grand Governor holds in Moorish Temple. He's a governor. So being a governor, that wasn't of Ontario. That was of Canaanland. Because there was only two of us that went on the trip. So all the quote unquote titles were put in trust to the Grand Sheik. And then because it's in trust, whoever was qualified filled the seat. Because it's there in trust. And once you know how to activate it, then you're it. Because it can be activated once you study. The bell will go off in your head like, oh yeah, I'm the Grand Secretary. But you don't need the title to be that. I was talking to somebody, I can't remember who I was talking to. And they were like, yeah, my mate, she's the secretary. Everything's straight. Ask for whatever. Oh yeah, it's at the whatever. It's over in it's the stuff you lost. No, she knows where it is. So you'll just naturally take that position. Because that was just, you was getting paid to do that. That was just part of her being. That titles with the Moorish Temple, it's like that. Like I only knew because these Moors said, you're Grand Sheik, that, oh, this is what's going on? Because we were doing that already. We were just doing that as black. We were doing that as African. We were saying that we're kings and all that type of stuff. No, we're Moors. All those stuff is distraction. Get you away from the birthright. Ultimately, all it comes down to is that this is your birthright. No one owns this. No title guy. And take it from me, I'm Adept Chamber, Grand Sheik, Grand Governor, Divine Minister. Take it from me. These Moors who call themselves these titles, they don't own the Moorish movement. It's your movement. Go read Magistrate and Subject in your Holy Quran of the Moorish Temple. Because You're the power. Is Allah guiding you? If Allah is guiding you, then this is going to go somewhere. Because you are the nation. So Noble Drew Ali said, you're the nation. And if your flag is 50,000 years old, then you've been around here longer than a lot of people. So start being that instead of being a fiction. Right? And then, with regard to the Black Masons, where you're at in your jurisdiction, right? They've taken their position. Their position is what it is. And then their duty is going to be trying to recruit to get people to be part of that. But trust me, if they never took out, actually went and took out, you know what I mean? Ivan Van Sertima put in mad years before he transitioned. Dr. Ben put in mad years before he transitioned. Henry Clark, Francis Cresswell Singh, people put in good amount of years before they left the plane. If it was really serious, they would have been taking out people. Right? And then when we go outside that realm and we go into Seafree Monell and Dr. Blair and these people, how much years they put in, and they didn't get taken out. It's not something of somebody trying to take us out. Right? Because they want to do that, they'll do that. That is no big deal to them. We have to do the Amish and whoever, and just start handling our own affairs. Yeah, it'll be amazing for Moors to start a trade training class for Moors. But that's only going to be happening from people who know the trade. Anybody else is useless being in the department. If you don't have a trade, don't talk about trade class so we could train Moors how to do whatever type of trade is out there. Whoever's the master of that trade is going to be that individual. And then that individual, Moor, who has that trade mastered, is going to have one of those Moors in every quote-unquote state. And then every city and every county or whatever. And then they're going to have to go have their conventions and stuff like that and do whatever they're supposed to do as Moors. But, people have to be prodded in order to be active. They stay passive forever. And unfortunately, Moors don't have enough show so people could say, oh, wow, the Moors are whatever, and then jump on it. Which, again, why Noble Drew Ali said, there's only going to be a handful saved, so that's why I put divine first. Divine's first for a reason, so you don't get caught up in the BS on this plane. Now, yeah, you're here, you learn your lessons, you master your crafts and your arts and whatever else that you're going to master here. Since you came here, brought yourself here. But it's really about the higher plane. This is just training ground. Many people are not holding their position. You know, the one Moabite who went to, you know, whatever dental training school of the whatever, and she's working for some Jew boy dentist, you know what I mean? And he's in the office while she's cleaning all the teeth and stuff like that. It's time to start your own practice. Because you already know how to do everything. It's not like the only difference is that you're not going to do it on a Negro black color. You're going to do it more. And then there we go. We have our own dentist, whatever. Remember, Noble Drew Ali's time. You know, Oscar the Priest, you know, used his connections for the Moors because he was down with Noble Drew Ali as a boy. You know, the Amor was telling me about Binka, the Chicago banker guy. I think Binka is his name, something Binka or something. Right? Another somebody that Noble Drew Ali knew, using his connections, you know, to help out the Moors. You know, even if we bring it up to speed. Tashreeq Bay, going and getting properties for the Moors and all that stuff, and then Moors lose the papers for the properties. And make it like, well, nobody never made him Grand Sheik and all that stuff, so how could he do that and all that? And nobody's talking about the guy who lost the papers. Nobody's not addressing the guy who lost the papers for the 5 or the 10 properties or whatever that Tashreeq Bey manifested for the Moors when he was in a temple. But you're not questioning where that stuff is. You're going to say, oh, those people are not following the prophet. They don't teach what Noble Drew Ali teaches. And the sellout, which is the elephant in the room, is just there. Have everybody press up on the wall and they're pretending like nothing's going on. They're pretending like nothing's going on. When all these people solely wrote. Islam Moors. If you got anything to throw in there before we make our exit.
I just love how Brother Sheldon came on and just shut it all down. It was real simple. He said, "How is your flag?" I threw the phone. I said, "Come on, man." It was that simple. It was that simple. It was that simple. Flags over 10,000 years old or 50,000 years. Well, how old is Canada? I said, oh, well, that's the end of that.
Conversation over. Conversation over. Conversation over.
It's over now. I was like, that's the end of that. I don't want to hear that ever again. Conversation over.
Conversation is over.
The fact that this is still coming up, like, come on, man. Like, I would expect, like, you know, you're a modern European or something to say that, you know?
Yeah, mad.
Just hears about, you know,
just
Moorish American, whatever. But come on, man. You're a Grand Sheik or something, you're supposed to be educated.
Straight.
Basic. Super, super basic.
Real basic. Islam to all the Moors.
With that, I yield the floor and I'm going to bed.
Islam. Enjoy the soul plate, yo. Tell the prophet we said what up.
Yeah. All right, more.
Peace and love, more.
Islam,
more.
Islam Cujo will do it tomorrow, right? Tomorrow? Yeah. Tomorrow's the thing, right, Cujo?
Say it again? Yeah.
Tomorrow is,
Yeah, Friday night, yeah.
Right, all right.
Yeah. All right.
All right, so.
All right, more, yeah, tomorrow. We'll connect.
All right.
Islam,
peace, love, more.
Islam, peace.
Islam.
Yeah, more. Well, give thanks, more. You already know.
Yep. If I don't know all the more in the chat, give thanks to the Grand Sheik for the platform and honors to the Prophet, Noble Drew Ali.
Supreme honors to the Prophet, Noble Drew Ali. You know what you did. You know what you did. And we give thanks. We just get something for him. Wait, might as well do this one. Islam, Moors.
Yeah. I know what Dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I'm going at dirty rappers, lynching dirty Moors too. Hiding literature that Drew wrote to warn you. They claim to make you Muslim and make you sovereign. With paperwork and filings, it's fiat and robbing. They don't care about his words, throw it out like garbage. Or throw it at you when you're active, not passive. When they want to talk about like off a trampoline mattress, treat them like a vamp or a teen actress. Get stamped with the brand like a mean savage. This Inquisition's divine, all others average. Millennium Renaissance, heroes in our classes. Fed up with the czar controlling fascists. Ask if they heard about Moors, they say no. But Masons, they obviously know. Down the handshakes and rituals with skull and bones. They even know about owls burning Bohemian Grove. I know what Dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I know what Dirty Moors did. Dirty Moors killed Drew. I read the FBI papers on loyal Moors, emergency fund rapers. Moorish literature and divine bylaw changes. Might as well say Drew Ali was born in a manger. Prophet puts poison aside and his food smelled danger. Got me treating every Moor like a stranger. Grand Sheik Funkin stumbling drunk in their feds. What was proclaimed for every meeting was not read. Some Moors are so active, Prophet can't be dead. Thanks Moorish teachers away, I can't be led. Actions speak, then I consider what's said. And what's said was study, then study yourself. Honest to the Prophet, Noble Drew Ali. I know what Dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. Everybody wants to be just like Drew Ali, but nobody wants to care about Drew Ali. I know what Dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did. I know what Dirty Moors did to Drew Ali. I know what Dirty Moors did.